This is not my phrase. I got this from Eckhart Tolle, and it hit so well. I've like hung on to it, which is this phrase: whatever you think the world is withholding from you, you are withholding from the world. And it's really like, it's this really, really useful twist. Like whenever you're like saying to yourself, oh, people aren't being kind to me, people aren't doing this, I haven't, stop and think, well, am I doing that thing? Like, go first. Be the social leader, go first. If you want people to ask you questions, ask them questions. If you want people to talk to you, talk to them. If you want to be invited out, invite them out. Because a lot of times people are having the same internal experience that you are, and they're feeling defensive but wanting to connect. Like there was this, with one of my people that I worked with once, he was working on social anxiety, it was exactly this kind of stuff. And he went to some event, and he got there, I forget what it was. He went to some event, and everyone's just like hanging around, awkwardly kind of standing there, and he's feeling anxious and awkward, but we've been working on this. So he went and talked to, I guess the person next to him, like just made some comment, and the person all of a sudden went from being sort of like closed off and frowning to being like, oh, big and smiley, and like saying things back. And then he was like, oh, and then they had this great conversation. And then the people around started joining in the conversation and sort of crowding around. And then he was like, wow, I'm like the center of attention. I'm like, so he felt so good. And basically these people wanted to, no one was like angry and closed off and shut down. They didn't know anybody. And so the stranger anxiety was up. So they were kind of protected. And by going first, by being the social leader, it like made it safe for everybody else to like open up and be warm as well. I want to give an idea of, here's some steps to do when you're in some social situation and you do want to form connections. Whether it's like a club or an event, or you're becoming a regular at a coffee shop or whatever it is, but you find yourself in that situation. A lot of people won't have a clear idea of how do I go from stranger to friend. So I find it helpful to have like some steps. So I'll give you quickly, these are my steps. This is how I do this, because I've moved so many times. One is you are not, like, bearing in mind, you're going to get back what you put out. You are going to be the social leader. You're going to go first. You're not going to take giant leaps. And you're not going to try to make a ton happen in a short period of time. So no pressure, no focus on the outcome. You're just doing these little steps. Like, I actually think of this like you're walking around like throughout your week, and like, you're trying to go out of your house, so you're out in the world, but you're just like kind of throwing seeds around as you walk around. And if you go around throwing seeds, some ground is not going to be fertile. Nothing's going to happen, but you will, not through forcing an infertile ground to suddenly be fertile. You're just going to throw around, and some places are going to be fertile. Like, things are going to sprout, things are going to grow, and those are the ones you like sort of head towards. But step by step, really briefly, it's going out somewhere, maybe setting a goal of doing, just these really small warmth behaviors, like smiling at people, saying hi to people, asking them how their day is. Some of those will blossom. Many of them will not. Just going doing this, maybe if it's a social event, introducing yourself to 3 people and just getting to say your name, get to know their name, ask basic, boring stuff. Some of those will blossom, some of them won't. That's fine. And you just stick with the ones where it's blossoming, where it's fertile. And it's hard for people sometimes, and it's like, oh, well, I met somebody and it went fine, I liked them, but how do I go from that to friends? So one way that like this has worked, for me is staying on top of like what events are that are happening in my community. Like if there's a book talk coming up, or there's interesting movies coming out, or there's this show that's going to happen, like reading internet or local papers, just being aware of what's coming up that you like. And then when you have a conversation with somebody, and you happen to have something in common or a topic comes up, you can be like, oh, hey, I'm actually going to go do this, or this is coming up, or this just happened. And it's really helpful because it gives you some reason to go beyond just like, oh, we have met. Maybe I'll find you at some point in the future. It's more like, oh, well, did you know that this thing is coming up? And if they're like, oh no, that'd be cool, then you can, you have that. There's some plan, some reason why you're hanging out again, versus just waiting for it to happen. And then again, in the kind of what I have done system, I then actually go to those things, and I will just text the people that I've met who I think might be open to it. And some of the time, if it's fertile, they go. If not, the odds of them inviting me to something have just gone up by 800% because people reciprocate. So that's sort of a quick method here that encapsulates a lot of the principles.